Hey, my name is Fred the Finch. If you've been playing Deadlock, you might know me as Ronald. I'm one of the best Yamatos in the game right now. In yesterday's patch, quite a few things got changed about Yamato and some of the items that she likes, and the playstyle has changed once again to favor a more spirit-oriented build again. So in this video, we're just going to be going over all the things that they changed that are relevant to her, and what it changes about her, and what that means for her. So the most obvious change to her from this patch is just the Yamato changes. They nerfed her gun growth, they nerfed her crimson slash fire rate slow, and they fixed some issues with the flying strike pathing, and they reduced the duration on your shadow transformation. You do get that duration back in the tier 3 upgrade. All this means for her is that the meta is going to sway more from a gun oriented build with building fire rate and things like that, to going back over to a spirit assassin, spirit bomber build, which I think is much healthier for her and is what she's really meant to do. Other than the obvious nerfs to the gun build, another build that was getting some play was a build centered on Torment Pulse, Decay, and Mystic Slow. And this build is also significantly weaker because the fire rate slow changed to Yamato's 3, as well as fire rate slows now stacking diminishingly, as well as Decay getting nerfed. All of these make the build a little bit less effective, although I still think it will be a decent choice. So these next changes change every character. It's just a map change, so it's not really Yamato specific. But because Yamato is very strong in the early game and she's very oppressive with getting kills, this change is massive for her. Because the side lanes are a little bit further away from the middle lanes, you can't gank as hard, and it takes longer to zip back to those side lanes to get back to your Guardian. And because you don't start with a zip boost, if you get an early kill, you snowball that super easily. So as you can see in this lane, I get a kill in the first 2 minutes, and in last patch that really wouldn't mean anything. I would get a few hundred souls and I would maybe get a little bit of damage on the Guardian, but here I get a kill in the first 2 minutes, I get a 1k soul lead, and I get half the Guardian damage. Because he's so far behind in souls, he has to stand back and try to CS from far behind, which makes it easier for me to steal, while I also pressure his Guardian. As soon as he pushes up, I punish him harder, because once again he's super behind on souls, I can easily kill him again, and then get even further lead. So early game becomes a lot more snowbally than it was before, because they can't just immediately come back. So you get a super big soul lead and you can take objectives super quickly with this change. And even though people come to help the Geist, I still take the Walker in under 6 minutes, and because 2 people rotate to stop me, we also take the Guardian in the lane next to me, so I'm making space both in my lane and for the rest of the map. I think those were all of the biggest changes to Yamato, but the changes to a lot of items still do affect her. I'm not sure how it's going to change my build specifically, but if you do use it, I'll always keep it updated in game. I'll always post it in my Discord, so keep an eye out for that. It does take time for me to try everything out and see what I like now, but these are just some of the things to look out for and some of the important changes. So Kinetic Dash got a reasonably sizable nerf. This makes it a little bit harder to split push, and it makes it a little bit weaker. I still think it's a very strong item. I don't think it changes too much, really at all. If you're building Kinetic Dash, I would say still build it. If you didn't like it, no reason to change now. Mystic Shock got a spirit scaling buff, so this just makes it stronger, more prevalent. If you weren't using it before, might want to consider it. I think it's a very good item. It's not great at poking anymore, but it's still very strong, and it's a gun item that scales with spirit. Pristine Emblem now builds off of high velocity mag instead of Headhunter doing it. It gives more bullet velocity, it gives good spirit power, good spirit resist, and it does extra damage to people above 50% health. This is also a strong item. For my build specifically, I don't think I'm going to drop Point Blank for it, just because Point Blank gives the extra bullet resist that you're missing in some areas. But it is a good item, especially for Yamato, because it gives a lot of spirit power and the bullet velocity is nice, so it's definitely good to look out for. The next change is Spiritual Overflow, giving more bullet shield. Isn't a giant change, but it is nice if you're building the item and might make it a little bit more advantageous to build it, but it's nothing crazy. Melee lifesteal got some small nerfs. It's less effective against the troopers, which gives you a little bit less sustain in lane, but I still think it's a very strong item, and I definitely wouldn't get rid of it. Ammo Scavenger got quite a few nerfs. This is one item that I might take out of the build depending on how I feel about it. It is still a pretty decent item, but it's not nearly as strong as it was before. Mystic Reach got some buffs to its range as well as changing it from Spirit Resist to Bullet Resist. I think this is a good item. I might consider putting it in my build. It's definitely interesting, especially because you're lacking some Bullet Resist on Yamato. Definitely worth trying out at the very least, but isn't a game-breaking change. Torment Pulse got buffed yet again. This, along with the next change that we're going to look at, is going to make the tankier line in my build a lot more effective and a lot stronger, and contend a lot more with Mystic Reverb. And finally, Escalating Exposure got a bug fix that makes it interact more consistently with resistances, which is very strong for us because we mostly build Escalating Exposure against the tankier teams, so this is a really big buff to Escalating as well as the Torment buff. This will make the tankier line in my build much more effective and might want to consider it more often than you did before. Overall, even though Yamato got individually nerfed in this patch, she really didn't have a bad patch here, and I think she's still going to be very strong, and Spirit is just going to be much more prevalent, which I think is much more healthy for the character. As always, if you learned anything, if you have any questions, anything like that, be sure to leave a comment. You can come by my Twitch, you can come by my Discord, I answer any questions there, and I'll always be making more stuff, so if you have any ideas of what you want to see, just leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to keep it in mind.